Breaking news from the Detroit Free Press. It is expected that Michigan defensive coordinator Mike McDonald will return to the Baltimore Ravens as defensive coordinator. Mike McDonald came from Baltimore to Michigan to be the defensive coordinator for Michigan. He was a defensive assistant under Wink Martindale, defensive coordinator there a long time, and Wink Martindale was recently let go, surprisingly. And now John calls up Jim and says, "Hey, Jim, I need my guy back."
Wink has the best one-liners in history.
So maybe Jim will take Wink.
So what
they call? You can't say that word anymore nowadays in this culture. But when you give something, you take it back. Isn't that what this would be?
A giver?
A giver.
Yes.
There you go.
There you go. Let's bring it back. Hondo Carpenter, SI Raiders maven, of course. Spartans, MSU Spartans cover them long time, still does as well. Hondo. You see players leaving, recruits not knowing what's going on, coaches leaving. Is there any doubt to you that if offered the job, there's a 100% degree of certainty that he would take that job?
Absolutely. Again, that's just the feeling around the NFL. I've not talked to Jim, is that he wants out. And if somebody will open the door, he'll run through it. And one guy even said to me, he goes, I think if Jim's offered the Raiders, he'll crawl to Vegas and get there. So you know what? I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, if there was, I think he would just come out and address it and just say, I'm going to go back to this. I remember covering Izzo when he almost took the Cleveland Cavalier job, and he was just incredibly transparent about it. And he talked about it and said, guys, I don't know what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk with them. I'm going to look at everything. But nothing's just going to happen last second. And at the end of the day, Tom made his decision to stay. I think there are ways to do it and ways not to do it. I'll give you a good example. Butch Jones is one of my best friends, former coach at Central, Tennessee, Cincinnati. When he left Cincinnati to go to Tennessee, his players cried, hugged him, loved on him, told him how happy they were because he got generational wealth. When Brian Kelly left Cincinnati, they were pissed and mad, screaming and yelling, because it's all in how you do something. It's just like asking a tough question as a press conference. I've never once had a player get mad at me for asking a tough question, because I don't make the question about their character as a human being. If you say to Braylon Eller's, gee, in your career you dropped 2 balls, what happened? Okay, he's not going to get mad. He knows you dropped the 2 balls. And I mean, but when you go up and say, geez, you played like crap, were you out? What happened? Why don't you care anymore? There's a way to ask questions. There's a way to do things. And I think that Jim isn't doing it right. And I think he owes that university better, especially since it's his home.
Yeah, I agree with you. They let him stay. And we talked yesterday. We said everything is now. It's the quarterback. You want him to win now. You want the head coach to win now. Everything is now. Jim Harbaugh in Michigan probably the last good example of good things come to those who wait. But I phrase this question to you, Hondo. Where does this leave Jim Harbaugh? Because it seems like he definitely wants out of Michigan, be it because there's no David Ojabo, there's no Aiden Hutchinson. The quarterback situation, you're losing 2 offensive linemen. So maybe
Mike McDonald.
McDonald's gone. You have insert another new coach, 2 new coaches on the coaching staff. So he's trying to get out, and his players are watching him. His coaches are watching him, trying to do the scramble dance, but nobody has interviewed him yet. And the 9 teams that are open, nobody's interviewed him. Where does that leave him if no one hires him? Nobody brings him on. He doesn't leave.
He talked to the Bears on the phone, though, for about a minute.
Okay, excuse me. He did have one conversation for 1 minute with the Bears, kind of like a courtesy call, but there was a courtesy flush on the Bears' end. Where does that leave Jim Harbaugh next year if he has to go back? Well, not next year. This season, let's say 2 weeks. If he goes back to Michigan, where the hell does that leave him in the team?
Well, it depends on what kind of a Wolverine you are. First of all, you're not going to get a better coach. And one thing I think that everyone can say about Jim Harbaugh, whether you love the man or hate the man, and you should respect his ability as a coach, he's going to give Michigan all that he has. He's not going to go out there and do a terrible job and not give maximum effort. So I think the first thing, if you're Michigan, you have to ask, okay, if he leaves, are we going to get somebody better? That's a question right now the Raiders are asking themselves. They got Rich Bisaccia, who did an absolutely phenomenal job coaching this team after John Gruden resigned. That man has earned the right to be a head coach. So think about this one. I wrote about this in my article yesterday. whoever Mark Davis brings in, he's got to get to a minimum of 10 wins and at least win one playoff game, or everyone's going to be like, well, we had Bisaccia, and he was a lot cheaper, and at least we got here with him, and all of our players love him. I mean, that's a big question. If you're Michigan, okay, if Jim goes, who are you going to get that's better? Because I'm going to tell you, Michigan is a political place now. That is a political place. And there's going to be a lot of juxtaposing for power when Jim leaves, because he owns a lot of it, has a lot of it in his hand. I think Michigan, regardless, when Harbaugh leaves, is going to be in bad shape. And I'll go, in case you're thinking I'm picking on Michigan. When Tom Izzo leaves Michigan State, they're in a world of hurt up in East Lansing when Tom Izzo leaves. Same principle here. If you're Michigan, I think you welcome him back. Thank God you got him for another year. The suites are going to be full. The tickets are going to be so full. The cash registers are going to be full. You may need to pay some people around him more because he's wearing them out. But at the end of the day, you think you're glad he's back.
Hondo, I got something on the Raiders for you. You're not the only guy we know in Vegas. So we've heard some other stuff. Josh McDaniels, Gerard Mayo, combination, head coach, defensive coordinator. We hear that Mark Davis would love to have that combination in Vegas. What are you hearing on those two guys?
Good question, Maz. I wrote about it yesterday. Absolutely. Gerard Mayo is a guy, and Braylon, you may remember him in his time in the league.
Played against him.
He had incredible instincts. This guy had the ability to see plays almost from one guy told me, he goes, I thought the guy had eyes on the side of his head and the back of his head. And very few players with those instincts are able to carry those over into the coaching world. And he has. Now, I wrote about this yesterday. Bill Belichick's motto is, do your job. So the reason that the feeling around the league is that a lot of his guys have failed, I think Patricia failed because I think he's terrible, but the reason a lot of them have failed is because they don't ever get a chance to see what it's like to be in Bill's seat. Bill does it all. So they get out there, and that in the head coaching chair is a lot of chairs. Josh McDaniels has that experience already under his belt. He is an absolutely terrific offensive coordinator. He would be a home run hire. I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm Mark Davis, my first hire is to go get Sean Payton. I wrote about it yesterday. If I can't get him, I keep Rich Bisaccia, and if I'm not sure that Rich is the guy, then I go get Josh McDaniels in a heartbeat. He's got Gerard Mayo, who I think is going to be a great head coach in the NFL. Here's the problem, though. If you give a guy, white or black, a bad job, it's like the Lions' job. How stupid do the Lions look for Caldwell? Does Mark Davis want to be the Lions squared? Because now he's fired two coaches that have taken him to the playoffs. And if you give a coach a bad team and he fails, he doesn't get those second chances. And the Raiders are not a bad team. This is not where you go to learn to be a head coach. This is already a team, a playoff team. So I think you got to go get a guy with experience. If you can get Josh McDaniels and Gerard Mayo, you jump at that. You jump. Those are two great coaches. And I'll go on the record, keep the video. I'll be held accountable. Mayo is going to be a head coach in the National Football League one day, and he's not going to be good. He's going to be great. I think he's the next Mike Tomlin. And not because of his color. I think he's the next Mike Tomlin because of his brain.
How about that? The great Hondo Carpenter,
Mike
man.
Tomlin.
We can't thank you enough for your time, Hondo. And I'll leave you with this. If you had to put it down right now, you do live and work in Vegas. So there's a situation there. If you had to put your money down right now, who would be the next coach of the Raiders?
Man, it's 50-50. Josh McDaniels. I'm really, or Rich. I'm going to tell you, Ryan, I'm being honest. Early it was Harbaugh, but the longer this thing goes on and it's not Jimmy, I think that his chances are dwindling every day. And here's a big sign I'll give your people. I wrote about it yesterday. Yep. Gus Bradley's a tremendous defensive coordinator for the Raiders. He's good. They got a really good defensive staff.
I was in Seattle with Gus.
Yeah, so you know, Braylon, and he has not taken another job. Nobody's called. He's there. That tells you in the room. Those guys in the room think Rich Bisaccia is going to get the job. So I'm telling you, as long as it goes, I just think Rich's chances are going up every day, and Jim's chances are falling. So for whatever it's worth, there you go.
There it is. It's worth a lot, Hondo. We can't thank you enough.
Hondo.
And hey, spitting facts about Michigan. Nobody can call you out if it's facts, right? And sometimes facts are mean.
Well, I said the same thing about Izzo, though, guys.
Hey.
Michigan State is in the crapper when Izzo's gone.
Hey, look, Hondo.
They might be in the crapper right now.
Known you a long time. Your integrity.
What you talking about, Willis?
Man, you call it like you see it.
Illinois.
I appreciate you, Hondo Carpenter. Thanks so much, my friend. We got to run. Hondo Carpenter. Follow him on Twitter at Hondo Carpenter. Get the latest Raiders news. SI Raiders Maven. How about that?